Hello everyone, I'm Radhika Khurana. Welcome you to yet another episode of Lawyer Speaks presented to you by Law Community, wherein we invite brilliant minds of legal fraternity so that you get to peek into their lives and get to know their stories. And today we have with us Advocate Jeevan Ballav, partner at Khitan and Company, with more than 12 years of experience, having a special focus on commercial litigation, arbitration, and employment. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you so
Hi,
much
good
for
afternoon.
joining us today.
Good afternoon. My pleasure.
I hope you're doing well in this
All well.
pandemic situation. Okay, so let's
Yes, sir.
start with the interview.
Sure.
Okay, my first question for you is tell us a little bit about your early life. Like, how did you decide to do law, and who was your inspiration, and how did you manage your 5 years in law school, and what was your after strategy?
Sure. So, in terms of law as a career option, obviously it happened to me by chance. I was essentially a medical aspirant and I was preparing for that. And obviously, I didn't have any personal interest. It was more because of the family wanted me to do it. And I was obviously a science student in 10 plus 2. But thereafter, it didn't work out. Medical, as you know, it's very difficult. So in the first attempt, obviously, it didn't work out. And since I had studied early, I didn't want to lose out on that advantage of age. So therefore, I told my parents that I am going to choose a career option definitely. And I had also applied for defense, but for whatever reasons, it didn't work out. And I was genuinely interested in army. And then automobile engineering was another option, but I was not great with maths and physics, so therefore that also was not a great career option. But it just happened that my father was told by somebody in his office that why don't you consider 5 years integrated law, which is coming up well. But typically when I started studying like 10 plus 2, law was obviously not a career choice for students. It was either medical or engineering, and you have to be a science student. Otherwise, you were considered somewhat inferior. But the times have changed significantly today. So that was the mindset. But my father considered that why don't we give it a choice, give that a choice to me. And then coincidentally, Hidayatullah National Law University, the application advertisement was there in the newspaper, which my sister came across. And most of the other national law schools, the 5 other national law schools, they had already completed their national entrance test. Then there was no CLAT. So at that juncture, obviously, I thought that yes, definitely, why not give it a shot. And my maternal grandfather was a leading advocate in the district courts in western part of Orissa. So he, by heart of heart, obviously wanted me to pursue law, but obviously could not express it. The moment he heard this, he was very happy. And obviously, today my sister saw the advertisement. The very next day, we were traveling to Raipur, and this was the first batch. So, accompanied by my father, I traveled to Raipur and I appeared for the entrance test the day thereafter. So it was just within 2 days that a decision was taken, and ultimately I ended up ranked 46, and then that's how it started, and that's how I landed up in Hidayatullah National Law University.
So, what was your experience in college? How did you plan those 5 years, and what was your strategy after your college was over?
See, when I went to Raipur to start my college, that was for the first time I was going out of home. I had no prior experience of hostel life, so obviously it was a bit of a cultural shock because many other my friends, batchmates, they were already having prior experience. Either they had shifted from other courses like engineering and all, so had a little bit of experience at least. Some of them were from boarding schools, so obviously they had prior experience. So for me, initially, the first year at least was difficult to get used to the environment of the hostel life. So I was finding it slightly difficult. But gradually, once I started making friends and I got used to the environment, then it became fairly easy. And then I started enjoying my law school life and got involved in a lot of extracurricular activities like sports, what you call moot courts. Started writing articles, And yes, I thoroughly enjoyed thereafter. The first year, obviously, it took time to get used to, but otherwise, thereafter, it was a enjoyable experience.
Any advice or any tips that you would like to give to the students who are currently pursuing their law?
See, there is a common myth people have, and in fact, the moment you log into LinkedIn, you will find many debates about whether a national law school or not a national law school. So at that point in time, I had no idea about national law school. And again, as I mentioned, we were there in the first batch of the university. Now things have significantly changed. Of course, if you may ask me point blank, then yes, national law school, so to say, you may say that it may give you a foot at the door, but ultimately it's more about the temperament of the individual and the willingness to learn. So even I have found, at least during like my practice career, I have handled interns. I was completely in charge of the internship in the Calcutta office when I started my career. For a long time I was assisting my senior then, and I have come across students from different law schools, both NLUs and non-NLUs, and I have found that non-NLU students are equally motivated, equally they are self-driven, and they are very competent. So there is no reason why one should think that if I am not in an NLU, then it is difficult. But yes, I would say that in those days, maybe it gave you the foot at the door. But today, that there is a very thin line, and hardly there is any difference. You have colleges like Symbiosis, you have Jindal Global, Amity, and many other private colleges. They are doing equally better, equally good, if not better. So I would say that it entirely depends on your motivation, temperament, and your passion to pursue law as a career option. So you have to be motivated, and particularly because today there is a lot more competition than what used to be maybe 10, 15 years back. So therefore, so many more students, so many more competition around you. And it's not like a engineering field where you have a Infosys or a TCS coming in and taking 10,000 students, recruiting them. So law, comparatively, it is a smaller field. So in-house legal team would have maximum of say 5, 6, or very big team would have maybe a maximum of 100 like employees who are assisting on the legal in-house team. Similarly, for a law firm at a particular a tier 1 firm, for example, would have a maximum of 30 to 40 graduates being absorbed in a particular year. So therefore, it's more competitive. So therefore, it's all the more reasons you will have to be out of the box, and irrespective of your background, irrespective of your college, I think your personal motivation and dedication and sincerity towards the field, that is what is most important, more than the NLU and non-NLU debate.
So you just mentioned that you in Calcutta office of Khaitan, you have handled many interns directly under your guidance. So do you
Yes.
think there's any kind of experience or any kind of myth in those interns that like any what is lacking in those interns in general these days, and what should they work on to improve so that they can work in a better manner?
No, in fact, very relevant question in today's time. In fact, by many webinars I have spoken about this particular issue. In fact, very relevant that the common understanding which people have, or at least used to have, is that the moment you have a certificate from a tier 1 firm or a big corporate, that helps you significantly in terms of your career choices or getting a job. While to some extent that may be correct, that it looks fancy on your CV, but at the same time, nobody bothers. At least I have personally never interviewed a candidate asking for a copy of the certificate. That's irrelevant. Rather, what you learn in that internship goes a long way. You may have interned in a tier 2 or a tier 3, or maybe even a individual advocate or a senior advocate, but what you make out of that experience is what is most important for me, at least individually, and for most, I would say. So in terms of suggestion, I would say that you value your internship opportunity. Don't always crib about like, I don't have any contacts, I don't have any reference, that I'm not getting through a tier 1, the HR teams are non-responsive. That's all right. You may still, I also personally did not have any reference when I started off, but again, I would put in a caveat that in those days it was not as competitive. So while I'm saying that I did not have any contacts, but comparatively, I would say getting through an internship in those days was comparatively better. So particularly when it is more competitive today, you make the most out of any opportunity that you are getting, whether it be a internship in a district court as well, or with a senior advocate, or with a tier 2 tier 3 firm. You make the most out of it, so that the team with whom you are working, they also value the contribution that you are making, and they consider you as part of your team, and not as an intern who is just to be occupied by giving some clerical work or pagination or a index or so on and so forth. So they should value your research. They should have the confidence in your initial few days of working, that they can assign you a work and you will be as good as an associate of the team. So that is the mindset of an intern that should be. Secondly, at least I personally approached internship in a very serious manner. I used to consider that an internship opportunity is an opportunity to prove my skills, to prove my mettle before the particular firm or a individual, and that's going to be forever, because in the legal profession, the impression or the kind of environment that you create around you, that becomes very important. So therefore I would say that that goes a long way. The reputation is very important. So therefore reputation, the sooner you start building it, it's better. So you be serious about the opportunity. You think or approach an internship from the perspective of getting a pre-placement offer. Whether you ultimately get it or not, that is a different story. But don't be desperate also. But at the same time, your work should speak that they would be willing to take you as an associate in the team, as and when there is an opportunity. You should be the first choice for them. So that is the mindset with which I used to approach my internship. And I used to value the opportunity in the sense that these 30 days or whatever number of days I'm interning, every day is an opportunity for me to prove myself. And I should aim at that reputation build up, that tomorrow if they consider hiring somebody as a fresher, then I should be the first person who should come to their mind and nobody else. And that actually worked out at so I interned at smaller firms also. I got a call back from them when I finished my 5 years course. So that's how, so that worked for me. And in fact, just to add to that, in fact, I got a pre-placement offer. Even being an average student, I got the first pre-placement offer for my college in the third year of my law school. So that was, I got a callback internship from Khaitan Calcutta office, and my senior, my mentor, Mr. R.N. Junjunwala, I could impress upon him during my first internship itself. So I got a callback and I got a pre-placement offer. So, and for with the other firms also where I interned, I got a callback.
Yes, sir, you're completely right. Law is more about what you know rather than who you know.
That's correct.
Okay. So coming to the next question, what according to you are the what according to you should be the qualities of a good leader?
See, for me, like I have seen different kinds of leaders during my close to 13 years plus 12 years plus career. The most important thing is loyalty, according to me. Loyalty, and you should be the trusted advisors from a client's perspective. So that goes a long way, whether you are an associate, a senior associate, or as a partner. It's inconsequential. Your advice should be valued by the client, and also valued internally, both internally as well as externally, whether from a client's perspective or internally, that if a matter is assigned to you, then a senior in the firm, even if you are not reporting to that particular senior directly, they can vouch for the quality of the work that you execute. This doesn't happen overnight. Of course, over a period of time, with meticulous approach, no shortcuts, and the quality of deliverables that you give over and over, years and years again, that's how you build up this. Again, falling back on the same point, that it's the reputation which is most important. So as a leader, it is no different, because the moment you build up a reputation, you build up an aura around you, your colleagues, your team members, your seniors, juniors alike, they value your presence, your mentorship accordingly. So you should bring positive vibes and not shouting at juniors or shouting at colleagues or showing your frustration. That's not going to take anywhere. You will not be respected. You will not be valued by anybody. So good behavior, one, with senior juniors alike. Secondly, your reputation aura that you create around you, not by saying good words or flattery terms, but by your quality work and execution, your seriousness towards things around you, whether be it execution of work, client dealings, or for that matter, following the protocols or processes of a firm or a individual or a chamber, whatever it may be. So there has to be some form of discipline, seriousness, and I think these are most important. And you should be cordial to your colleagues, senior, juniors alike. So you value their presence and opinions as well.
Okay, so it's been more than 10 years that you have been associated with Khaitan. So how has your journey in Khaitan been like?
See, it's like I would say it's ups and downs are there in every field, whether it is a law firm or a chamber practice or a corporate. So there is nothing called this particular field or this particular career choice is perfect for me. So it has to be as to what you are enjoying, because until and unless you are enjoying what you are doing, then there is no point, because you will tire out and there will be fatigue very quickly, and you will think of shifting jobs, and the initial charm of a fancy salary, or for that matter a fancy designation, those will no longer be valued by yourself. Forget about the others. So it may look good on your business card, but at the same time you will not be internally satisfied. So you will not be able to continue or sustain for long. So therefore it is most important that whatever you are doing, don't follow the herd mentality. Because many would say, just for example, I would say that in law school, when I chose environment law and intellectual property rights as my career choice, as my honors papers, that was, we were just 4 or 5 of us in the particular subject, because everybody else chose corporate governance and corporate laws as the honors papers, or something which is much more celebrated. So it depends on what you like, what you think is a good career option, and which will give you the pleasure of pursuing it as a career choice. Of course, ultimately I did not choose environmental law or intellectual property as my ultimate career choice, but at that point in time I thought that these are going to be value add to my CV and also for my law school career. So it's entirely your prerogative. You will have to decide on the basis of your interest and passion. There is no one size fits all formula. You have to decide your choices, whether it be a job choice or a like a subject that you are choosing, whether you want to pursue LLM or not. That again is a choice which you will have to make depending on what you ultimately want to do, and whether you are liking it or not. That's what is most important than taking advices or following any herd mentality. So that is something, according to me, is most important. You decide what fits you the best and what you are enjoying.
And at last, all comes down to like follow your heart.
That's correct.
Right,
Absolutely.
right, right. Okay. So you have authored many research papers till now. So would you like to give some tips to the students on how to write a good research paper, how to go about a paper, how to start, how to select a topic, and how to write in it?
See, as I mentioned, I was an average student in law school. I wanted to do everything in the 5 years, and I wanted to make the most out of it. Participated in 4 or 5 the topmost moot court competition one law student can think of. Represented the college both as a researcher and as a speaker. I used to value my so it was a blessing in disguise, I would say, being in the first batch. You do not have the advantage of your seniors projects, or which normally is the trend in law school, that we see that you have a research paper ready, you convert and change names, and you just submit it on the very last day of the submission date. So I used to do my projects very seriously, although I was not very serious about the CGPA. But these things I was very serious about, whether be it research for a moot court, or for that matter, because that's what I enjoyed, or a research paper for my project submission, choosing a topic very thoughtfully, and applying myself in terms of whether it is a contemporary topic, And the thought process used to be that the project should be in such a manner that I can convert it, and the concise version can be submitted in the form of an article and get it published, because there is no great satisfaction than seeing your name published in an article, whether be a hard copy journal or for that matter online publication. These days there are many options. Those days hard copies used to be the priority. So we didn't have the websites like Law Octopus, Bar and Bench, Live Law, etc., etc. So those days hard copy publications used to give a lot of satisfaction that that will be read by many, and I'm increasing my visibility. So there is no substitute. I maintain that even today, writing on contemporary topics, choosing it wisely. Again, don't go by herd mentality. Choose a topic very wisely. Any judgment that you have come across which is important, or you think you have a viewpoint or an opinion about it, you should research more on that, examine the legal position surrounding that, formulate your thoughts, views, and write an article on that, rather than taking any generic topic where there are hundreds of articles and just converting it, mix and match, and just giving something. So I would suggest that starting from law school, take your project seriously. Don't just copy paste from your seniors' projects. Choose topics which are contemporary, which are relevant, so that with the mindset that you can get it published in the form of an article. So by the end of 5 years, I could convert my projects and had about 20 to 30 odd publications at the end of the 5 years, simply by converting the projects. And that used to give me enough satisfaction. It looks good on your CV. So you are not losing out on anything. So you are also submitting your project sincerely, one. Secondly, you have mastery over what you are submitting. So in Viva Voce or the presentation, you can say or present it with that much more conviction. So that is much more important. And most importantly, when you are speaking or when you are getting interviewed, whether by a law firm or by anybody, you can make a viewpoint and say that I have written a paper on this, and this is the view or the opinion which I have expressed. So that would be valued much more by an interviewer than then you say that no, I had written a project on such and such.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you one more question that will benefit our viewers of this video. So what would you like to give some tips regarding how to crack an interview? See, it's a very generic question, but yeah.
See, this is again, I may be an exception to the general rule. Many people are nervous about internship, and let me be very candid about it. That as I mentioned, that in the very first year of my law school, I was very paranoid about the environment. I saw my batchmates speaking very clearly. They had participated in debates. They had no public speaking fear or stage fear, and I was like I was very introvert, and I could not ask a question in the classroom, even though I genuinely felt that it should be clarified. Rather, I would prefer going to the professor's chamber and asking that question rather than asking it in the open class. So I was very much of an introvert in the first year of my law school. But when I saw my batchmates speaking so fluently and without any fear, without any stage fear, or participating in moot courts and doing perfectly all right, I said that there is no reason why I should be underconfident. And then I started practicing things like I told myself that I should go as a speaker, not as a researcher in the moot courts that I participate and represent, because I thought that I can do much better, and I can do that much more research, and I can be confident. I started speaking to myself, practicing, rehearsing in front of the mirror, and various articles, books I read up as to how to build up on that. So that went a long way in terms of building that skill of public speaking, and it actually worked. So out of the 5 or 6 moot courts that I participated as a researcher only in the first moot. Thereafter, I went as a speaker, and I did very well, and it gave me a lot of satisfaction. So from the second year and onwards, there was no looking back. One is that. So that helped me. Secondly, as a litigation practitioner, you can't be an introvert. I'm not saying that everybody has to be good at speaking for being a litigation practitioner, but it gives you an added advantage because you don't know when a hearing opportunity comes up, your senior doesn't turn up in the court, and you should be equipped and prepared enough to argue the matter on your own. And there is, I can tell you today that there is no better satisfaction, better form of satisfaction than arguing a matter yourself, whether be it an arbitration or in a court. There is absolutely no substitute to that. So that is one. So keeping all these things in mind, so coming back to the question, I just digressed just to give you the background. So that's how I build up the public speaking aspect. So once I did that, I thought that again, it's an opportunity, participating or getting an opportunity to be interviewed by an expert or somebody who is more knowledgeable than you. It's an opportunity to prove your skills. So you should approach it in that manner, and be confident about it. You have nothing to lose, even if you are in desperate times. So you approach your interview in that manner. Be honest, both to yourself as also to the interviewer. Don't bluff or faff around saying that, yes, I have read it somewhere, but I don't recollect or something. If you are not aware of that, there is no harm in saying. Nobody is perfect, and it's not expected that you know everything. So I may be claiming that this is my subject matter expertise, but if you ask me a point blank question which possibly you have researched better than me, possibly you would be in a better position to comment or give an opinion on that. And I may have to go back to the books or do some research, and then only I'll be able to match your level of research or understanding. So it's fair. So that is one. Don't get bullied, but at the same time, don't be disrespectful as well. There are deliberate grilling which is done by many, but at the same time, be honest, be thorough about your CV, whatever is written in your CV, be honest about it. And that's when I say that it's not where you have interned, but what you have learned in those internships becomes critical. So if you have worked on a particular matter, be thorough and be meticulous about it right from your internship days, so that without naming the parties, because the matter may be sub judice even till today when you are being interviewed. So that goes a long way, that gives a confidence to the interviewer that you are conscious of confidentiality, which is one of the important traits as a lawyer. So keep that in mind. On no-name basis, anonymous basis, you can describe the factual background, see how you contributed during your internship, and express that with conviction. Say what your research outcome was and how did that benefit the particular firm or the lawyer in terms of hearing of the matter in court or at the time of drafting. So the contribution which you made, the in-depth or the meticulous study that you did for that particular matter, it may be a simplistic, say for example, a divorce matter. You need not do only commercial or high profile matters for you to demonstrate your meticulous approach. It may be a simplistic of a recovery suit, a 138 check bouncing case. But the level of your understanding, the extent of your research and your meticulous approach, that is what should be demonstrated. But of course, the subject for which you are being interviewed, that becomes critical. So you can't give a statement about a divorce matter when you are being interviewed for a commercial team or a corporate team. So again, you have to be mindful of that. But just as an example, I was saying is that your meticulous approach is more important than where you have interned. So we should focus on that. That is what at least I look at it when I'm interviewing somebody.
So coming to the last question. So in this question, I would say a few words and you have to answer whatever first comes to your mind after
Sure,
hearing them.
sure.
Okay. Legal industry and COVID.
Online is an alternative, but it's not a substitute to physical hearing. I would still prefer physical hearing.
Okay. Two-tier arbitration or appellate arbitration, we say.
For India, we are not matured enough. I think we should ensure that arbitration-friendly jurisdiction India should be looked upon as first. Then we can improvise on specialization. It's like first you have to be a good generalistic lawyer, then decide for specialization rather than the other way around.
Right. Legal education in India.
It has matured a long way and it is coming up well. So it's very competitive now. So therefore, you have to be out of the box to make a mark because it's a very small field.
Okay. I guess we've already talked about this, the last one, interns, legal interns.
Be honest and be desperate about what you are doing, and demonstrate passion and honesty wherever you are interning, irrespective of the firm or the lawyer or the chambers, wherever you are. That's inconsequential.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. It was lovely having you with us. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
We wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My pleasure. Thank you.